home, and I kept getting call declined. I was thinking, what's going on? Helena, has she fallen out with me? What's going on? She doesn't want to answer my calls. And so I immediately videoed Ed, youngest son, who of course you know very well. So I videoed Ed. So Ed, what's the matter with Mum? She won't talk to me. She said, oh yeah, don't worry about it. She's talking to Chris Bruerton at the moment. So, oh, right. It's so lovely, mate. It's absolutely brilliant. So I had to wait in turn because she was busy chatting with you. And,
yeah, mate, get in line.
She's a top girl. We love her very much. But yeah. Chris, we've shared some wonderful adventures, haven't we, in different parts of the world? Oh. And I think one I especially remember, and a part of it we can't mention on Facebook, is our adventures in Auckland, New Zealand. Not long after you joined the King Singers, and when we were hanging out there and we were in your own backyard, and we all had new suits, didn't we? And a local guy took exception to your suit. He took exception to the only guy that was a Kiwi in the group. We all walked past him one at a time, and he's going, nice suit, nice suit, nice suit. And he said something absolutely unspeakable to you about your suit. And that was it. You were strutting along the street looking like you were $1 million, mate.
I couldn't believe it. I was thinking, come on, man, like I'm the local boy coming home, and is that the reception I really need? Anyway, it was very funny. That suit only lasted about another month or so before I left it at Newark Airport.
I know.
Before a flight
to that
to Nashville. Oh gosh! And
what a terrible day that was.
And it wasn't only that suit; it was that and the DJ. So I lost two concert suits.
And the concert suit. Oh. I can visualize exactly where it was, because it's one of those satellite gates at Newark, EWR, Newark Airport. It's one of those satellite gates. And I remember we were doing the Naxos live recording of our Paternoster, our Lord's Prayer program in the Catholic Cathedral in Nashville. And I think it was that evening, wasn't it? We had a relatively early flight out of Newark. And I can remember the moment that you realized that you'd left your suit carrier in the passenger departure area, airside, and I remember you didn't know which way to turn, because you were going to run one way back to the gate to see if you'd left it on the plane, and then you came running back because you realized immediately where you'd left it, and you just didn't. You were going in two directions. You didn't know which direction to go. And I have to say, I wasn't laughing at the time because I really felt for you. But right now, it's one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, mate, it was, and then we had to find a tux before the concert, and and a wonderful friend of the group, Garen Moore,
Tracy's husband.
Yeah, he lent me his suit, and wasn't quite as snug as the bespoke suit that we've got from Mark Wallace.
It was like walking into a church with Coco the Clown.
I'm sure there's a Tom Hanks film where he's a kid wearing an adult suit or something like that. It wasn't quite that bad, but
but we've had some absolutely wonderful times, haven't we? And the group, of course, the King Singers have changed as well, a lot in the last few years. But I feel a great deal of strength, of character, of focus, and of people thinking in the same direction with the current group. Would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah, it does feel like we're all pulling together, and it's a very harmonious group, and we are coping with this sort of situation remarkably well. On Friday we had our second pub quiz. The first one was hosted by Nick and Rosie, and then on Friday, Liz and I hosted. And I just thought it's such a great thing to be able to hang out with your colleagues and call them friends as well.
For sure.
You know, I think that's really important. And if you're going to spend 200 days a year with people other than your family, you know, it makes a real difference when you're actually genuine friends with them.
Absolutely. And also that has a direct effect on making music together, doesn't it? Because it also means that a group like that gets on really well together and is very comfortable both both physically and emotionally with one another on stage, then they're going to sing together well, because they're going to second guess what the other person's thinking even. And in my coaching here in Hong Kong, I'm always talking to people about, when I'm working with small groups, talking to people about thinking the same way. And for my solo clients, my individual clients, talking to them about the thought process behind quality singing. And that comes from my time in the King Singers.
Yeah, no, it's an incredibly formative place to do ensemble singing and just to be an artist. And I've learned so much from my colleagues over the years, and I learned a lot from you about pop singing and delivering a solo and engaging with the audience. And that's something I still hold on to. And so if I can pass on any words of wisdom, I try to.
Well, you're one of the old guys in the group now. I don't mean old guys because you're not an old guy. I'm an old guy. You're not. But
you're very much
been around, relatively speaking, a long time. So there's a lot of experience that you can pass on to the younger members, and they'll, without a doubt, they'll look up to you. And I wouldn't be surprised, because you're one of the good guys.
Well, look, we are really encouraging ensemble, and we only want what's best for each other, and we have lots to learn off each other, and there's a real openness with this lineup for sharing ideas about how we can help each other, and it's a really wonderful environment to be part of. And I can't wait to get back with them.
Yeah, I'm very struck by the sense of family that I have acquired once again in Hong Kong, in spite of the fact that I am 6,000 miles from my own family. And I'm not going to get too down about it, but that the situation is that it is absolutely impossible at the moment for me to see my own family because of basically flights not operating, quarantine, the risks involved, etc., etc. So I don't know when I'm going to see Helena and Will and Ed again. But I have a fantastic support here in Hong Kong from people that not only I work with. There's a couple of guys that are sitting and supporting me here now, Patrick and Colin, that are not only great supporters of the business and use their own business expertise to help the thing run smoothly, but also they're my friends, because they're always there for me. They support me. They make me laugh. They make me cry sometimes. And it's a great family. But talking of family, I was absolutely amazed that, I think it was the day before yesterday, our families have always kind of stayed in touch through the King Singers, but it is over 6 years, or nearly 6 years rather, since I left the King Singers. And so now my two sons, Will and Ed, Will's 24, graduated from SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies at University of London, lives in London with his lovely girlfriend and is working. And Ed, now 19, is at Sheffield University studying international business. He's much smarter than all of us put together. And Will has got his dream job, because Will loves beer, and it's not about drinking quantities, it's about educating people about the brewing process and different beers. And he works for a Danish company called Mikkeller, and they're about to open their first brew pub in Exmouth Market in London, just in the northern part of Islington. And he absolutely loves that job. He's been appointed as assistant manager of their new pub, and in fact he's now back at work helping with the preparation for the opening. And also doing takeaway service, where with their freshly brewed ales, they've got this system of canning them straight away and then selling them to people in a socially distanced manner at the door. So Will is standing at the door a couple of days ago, and Jonathan Howard walks past. Johnny walks past, and Will looks at Johnny and knows it's Johnny straight away, even though he's not seen him for 6 years. And Johnny walks past, looks over at Will, looks again, and they're, can't hug you. So I think they were doing ankle bumps or something, or elbow bumps, having not seen each other for all this time, and had a great catch up And I am constantly reminded about the importance of family, about the world being a small place. You and I have had a great banter, even over the last 6 years since I left the Kingsingers, and it's part of us being brothers. There's just one other thing I want to say to you as well, which I've been saving for quite a while, and I just want to say publicly to you, which was that one of the most profound moments I've ever spent with any human being was hanging out with you and your absolutely gorgeous dad in Christchurch. He was one of the most special people I ever met in my life, JB. He's much loved and he's still much loved, mate. And I just wanted you to know that because I think about him a lot. He's a top guy, and he lives on through you and your brother, and now you're an uncle as well. And I'm sure he's looking down and he's incredibly proud of you and Al. And the time that I spent with him, both in Christchurch, but also when we were hanging out in France, was very, very special time. I wanted you to know that.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Yeah, no, he's and he lives on through his grandson, Charlie John Bruerton, which is really, really special. So I was speaking to Alistair and Heather and Charlie this morning on Skype and having a good catch up, and he's nearly 3 weeks old and is just a little champion, and so it's just so cool. And actually, a funny story from that trip after Uzès, after we all said goodbye to you, Alistair, Dad, and I went on a little road trip to Le Lavandou, which is down in the French Riviera.
Okay.
And Alistair had never driven on the right-hand side of the road before. And I was in the passenger seat.
You had a Renault Clio Estate. I even remember the car that you had. I'm so sad. Sorry, bro.
Oh no. And so there he was, driving on the left-hand side of the car for the first time in his life. I was on the right-hand side, and we were going down these narrow French little streets away from Uzès, which is a lovely old walled city.
Yeah, I've been to Uzès.
And anyway, and he was just started veering more and more right, and I was going, I was starting to really worry. And then I was about to say something when bam, he's absolutely totaled some poor parked car and just absolutely took off the side mirror, and just it was just annihilation, honestly. And I said, mate, and he didn't even realize he'd done it. I was like, mate, stop. And so he pulled in. I said, bro, you've just absolutely totaled the car's left wing mirror. Well, we have to go back and have a look at it. Anyway, it was just loosely hanging. There was absolutely nothing left of it. It was absolutely... And anyway, I said, mate, should we leave a note? And he was like, no. I was like, okay, look, you've got to stay more left. I feel really bad, but we just drove off. And so some poor French dude must have just returned to his car and gone, where's my side mirror? What the hell? Yeah, that was the start of one of our happiest sort of road trips. And then we went down to Le Lavandou. And one afternoon, one of the happiest sort of memories of Dad is Dad, Al, and I at our hotel under the shade of the trees outside, polishing off 3 bottles of sparkling rosé and just chatting and laughing and having the most wonderful time. It was so good. And then sleeping till 6 p.m. and then being wide awake for the rest of the evening. But it was just so fun. And yeah, so I have such happy memories of that little French trip. It was wonderful.
Can you remember what year it was?
2013.
13. Yeah, 2013. Yeah, I got it.
That was summer.
Yeah, gosh. And now it's 2020, mate. We're older, not much wiser, I wouldn't say, a little bit, but and we're still doing crazy stuff. Yeah.
And we'll continue to. And as long as you support Man City and I support Man U, there's always going to be, a little niggle.
There's always going to be a little bit of banter. There will. I've got a question coming in. Oh yeah. apparently nobody can hear anything now, but we're going to upload this conversation later.
Okay,
dear.
cool.
But listen, bro, you are one of the finest people that I ever met in my life. You are a consummate professional, but you're a consummate professional with the most wicked sense of humour, and that's what makes you special. I find myself asking the question of my clients, my students, and my team members on a regular basis that if you're going to be really good at what you do, you have to find out and ask yourself, what is it that you can do that nobody else can do? And so I know what it is that you can do that nobody else can do, and that is that you can both sing like a bird, but also make people laugh. And that's a very, very rare gift, mate. And you long may it continue in the King Singers and way beyond that as well. And with Lizzie, your beautiful wife as well, you know, it's just fantastic. And I know that her contribution during the lockdown in the UK is incredibly important as well, because she's out there doing her thing, and then also driving you home from hospital as well when you decided to injure yourself recently. How's that going, mate?
Yeah, well, it's
Oh, hello. Again.
Can you see it all right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's healing nicely. It was 2 weeks ago, and so, you know, we're on the mend, and so yeah, I'm bedridden for 4 weeks in total, and then I'll start to learn to walk again and get back into yoga and hopefully some more exercise. And seeing all this beautiful weather outside has definitely made me long to get out there, but I've just got to be patient, and it's a blessing in disguise that I'm not touring right now. Because I can actually just focus on healing it and getting it back to.
I toured a week after knee surgery, and it was the early 2000s with the group, and the first thing that happened was the group was rehearsing in St Margaret's Church, Westminster, and I had to hobble. I had anterior cruciate ligament graft, ACL graft in my right knee, and repair to my medial meniscus that I'd torn from end to end. So that was a week after the surgery. I had to get up the stairs to the practice room in the tower at St Margaret's, and then at the end of that day, the group was travelling by Eurostar to do a concert in Salgavo, which of course we're all familiar with. And we got onto the Eurostar, which in those days was leaving from Waterloo, and the Eurostar broke down just outside the tunnel on the French side and was immobile, and the power went off, everything went wrong. We were stuck there for something like 3 to 4 hours, and we had to be transferred between trains. So I was on crutches, and I was going on a ramp which went from one train to another across the line onto the train, which then took us to Paris. Fortunately, my colleagues of the time were there to help with carry my luggage. And then after the Salgavo concert, the next concert was in Teatro alla Pergola, Florence, Firenze, which again, another regular King Singers venue. And we flew to Florence. I remember getting off the plane, getting in a taxi, going to the hotel, the Mona Lisa Hotel, which we've stayed in so many times. And when we got to the street outside the Mona Lisa, I got out, and I had, if I remember rightly, only got one crutch with me because it was just impracticable to take two. And I got out of the taxi and put my crutch on the ground to hobble into the hotel, and realised that somewhere between the airport, the taxi, and the hotel, the rubber end of the crutch had fallen off. So it was just a bare metal aluminium end to the crutch. So it was absolutely useless. So for the next few days, I couldn't use a crutch. I was hobbling around. I was supposed to be on crutches. I was hobbling around, not on crutches, carrying carrying a useless crutch wherever we went to the next place. Oh, it was so ridiculous. And yeah, that's our touring life, mate. I mean, God willing, you'll get back to it very, very soon. And that, in whatever shape or form it takes, it's done in a way which not only looks after the audiences, but looks after you guys as well, because that's massively important. And live music, however it evolves in the coming months, is never more needed than it's needed now, especially beautiful a cappella singing like the music of the King Singers. I hope you've got some really interesting concert programs up your sleeve, bro.
We do, yeah. We've got some. I'll share those with you privately until the promoters have been told about them.
Just tell me now. I won't tell anyone, mate.
But we are looking at how music at this time is a real healing balm, and so it's cool, and so it's actually been a really interesting time having this much blue sky thinking time to be planning probably 2-3 years ahead, both with recordings and with programs, and that's given us a real sense of direction, and it's helped us realize that this is hopefully not going to be a long-term thing in terms of our King Singers careers, but just that it will feel long-term if it lasts a year or so, but actually over the course of our career it will just be a massive roadblock, but not one that wasn't unsurpassed.
Yeah, and we'll get through it. We'll get through it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, mate, you take care of yourself.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'll keep calling Helena and checking in on her.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, and you don't have to tell me when you do it. I'll just wait in the queue. And so when you I was going to say when you finish with it, you know what I mean. When you finish, I'll call afterwards.
Yeah, no worries. That's cool. Yeah.
Okay.
And look, if she doesn't want to talk to you afterwards, don't take it personally.
I won't. And in fact, I mean, that's highly likely anyway, because she thinks you're lovely. I think you're lovely as well, by the way.
Mate, right back at you, and I'll chat to you soon, okay?
Okay, bro. Thank you for your time. Thanks
to everyone for listening.
It's been great. Thank you, and we stay in touch. We know that. And come on, City.
I hope all your players get injured, mate. You take care.
Love you, man. Take care.
Thank you. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.